Hi, I'm Bart Hanson. I'm the owner and lead instructor for CrushLivePoker.com. The following hand comes from our call-in show that we record live at 2 p.m. Eastern Time every Monday. If you enjoy this video, hit that like button, and if you want to submit to be on the show, take a look at the information in the description.
So I'm playing in a private home game. It's 5-5 no limit with a $45 ante on the button.
Okay.
It's a 1K buy, and everybody basically buys in for $1,000. The effective stack right now is 2,500.
Okay.
It's a very loose, passive, friendly, gambly game, I guess, if I had to put all the above terms. So I am in the small blind, and I have ace of diamonds, ace of spade.
Okay.
So, the first villain is villain one. He's in the under the gun plus one position. He raises $240.
Okay, hold on, Dave. Give me 1 second here. You're gonna have to start over because I thought that I had a different call slated at this time that didn't have a hand involved with it, but I was wrong and you were right. All right, so from what I remember, this is 5-5, right, with a lot of straddles, and you're 2,500 effective.
Yeah, correct. You got it.
Okay, so 2,500 effective, multiple straddles. Now, is the hand in this hand? Does it have a straddle on it?
There's no straddle on this hand, but there's an ante, which we post every hand. It's $45 on the button.
Oh, okay. So this is similar to what we played on Live with the Bike. 5-5 with the $5 ante, right? And you just basically, what you do basically is, well, it took us 5 years to figure this out, but you just have the button ante. But it's basically a gigantic ante in relation to the blinds. And, you know, sometimes people would try to figure out, hey, what's the best way to play a game like this? Because it's kind of an odd structure. You know, there's 55 in dead money. So you can you sort of can look at it like in between. I always looked at it like a 15-30 no limit game, the size of the game. 15-30 to 20-40 no limit, with the opening sort of sizing being right around, say, 80 to 100. I mean, that's the equivalent amount of dead money, really, that's out there, because you've got 55 in dead money. So you're really not that deep, is basically what I'm saying. Like, you're almost like 80 big blinds. So on the surface, you might think, oh my God, I'm so deep. But if people are really opening to the size that they're supposed to be opening to, you're really not that deep.
Okay, yeah, that was my first question. How you consider the ante for the pot?
Yeah, you just look at the total dead money in the pot, right? So 45
right.
And then 10's 55. Like I said, that's like a 20-40 game almost, right?
Okay,
what kind of sizing were people using as opens?
Right around it's very wide range for different people, but anywhere from probably 40 to 75.
Yeah, I mean, I would tend to say that that's a little bit small. If you were to look at the game as like a 15-30 game, no limit, and people were opening to say like, you know, minimum, but people just don't realize it. But okay, all right, I'm with you. So, all right, let's get on to the hand.
Okay, sure, yeah. So I'm in the small blind.
Yep.
Like I said, I have ace of diamonds, ace of spade.
Okay.
And then the under the gun plus one raises to $40.
Okay.
It folds around. It folds around to the button, who calls the $40.
Okay.
And then I'm in the small blind, and I raise to $175.
So +1 to 40 button calls, you make it 175, which is a little bit on the small side, out of position. There's already a dead caller in there. If you were to go 4x plus the call, it would be 200, but I mean, you're going basically to 4x. Okay, so you raise it to 175 with ace of diamonds, ace of spades from the small blind. Okay.
Yep. And then the big blind calls.
Cold calls. It's
Yep.
always nice.
Cold calls.
Yep.
Yep. And then the under the gun plus one and the button both call.
And everybody has you covered, basically?
Yeah, it's a pretty deep game, and the three of us that are winning are basically the first three players I told you about, and the button as well.
So the pot is about 750. Okay, so I don't know how experienced you are playing, you know, at this level, because sometimes people are like, oh, well, I was playing a 5-5 game, and then all of a sudden I got in this situation where I 3-bet and 3 people called me, and now the pot's $750. But, you know, you only have like 2,200 left. You're really not that deep with the size of the pot. it's obviously it can get tricky when you're up against multiple opponents like this. But I mean, in essence, if you wanted to like dumb it down, you could almost look at this like you have 600 and the pot has 200 in it. If you were in a situation where you had 600 in the pot, had 200 in it, 600 left in your stack, would you really be all that concerned about not getting in aces? But
Yeah,
the reason why I'm looking at this is because you have like 3 times the pots. You know, I don't care what size of the game it is, you know. But it is against 3 people. So it really depends on what kind of board comes out. So what comes out on the flop here?
So the flop is a jack of hearts, 9 of hearts, 5 of diamonds.
Okay, I mean, so any type of flop where there isn't a straight possible and there aren't all that many 2 pairs, in this case, there's really only one combination of 2 pair that can beat you, like in the form of jack 9 suited, you know, I'm not really overly concerned. If you were going to tell me that it come out 7, 8, 9 with a 2 flush, yeah, that's troublesome, right? For, or 9 type 10 jack, but you know, you've got ace of diamonds with the ace of spades here, so you don't have the ace of hearts, but it would just be very, very difficult for me here to fold against one player if you bet and somebody jams on you. I just don't really see it. The question here for you is, you know, how do you want to play it? Now, your hand doesn't need a ton of protection in the form of overcards because you do have aces, but there can certainly be some very sticky cards that can come on the turn. 8, 10, queen, all these different types of cards. I mean, I would tend to go for a protection bet. And the theory here would be you don't really have to bet a ton, but you could maybe bet 250 to 300.
Yeah, so I bet 250. I mean, I was out of position, multi-way. I was kind of unsure what to bet there. And the game's very loose. Like I said, you only get raised basically flop turn if you're beat. I mean, so if you want to see where you're at, you're better off putting some sort of bet out there. And, you know, if you get raised, there are certain people that have never raised that I've never seen them raise without having the nut, basically.
Sure.
So I bet 250, and it actually calls all the way around, all 3.
Everybody called.
Everybody called.
Okay, so now the pot's $1,750, right? Because you just put $1,000 in 4 by 250, right? Pretty easy.
Exactly. Yep.
So you really, I mean, you basically have just over a pot size bet now, right? Left. Maybe you've got. Yeah. I mean, it's kind of hairy. Obviously, you could get into a sticky situation depending on the turn, but usually in these spots, you're supposed to usually just kind of get the money in, especially heads up against one person. What's the turn here now?
So the turn is a blank, 3 of spades.
Oh, that's great.
Yep.
Yeah.
So this is where I
was going to say, I'm just looking at exactly what you have left here. It looks like you've got maybe just over 2,000 in your stack, and the pot's 1,750. So the way that I would look at this is that I'd start looking at 1/3 and 1/2 increments. If you were to bet, say, 600 and you got a call, the pot would be like 3,000 and you would have maybe 1,200 left. You know, so I don't think that you really need to go any larger than 600-700 here. Now, if you do bet 600 or 700, then yeah, they're going to be getting like 4-1 on a call, so it can be a little bit awkward. But you know, if you start and you blast away here for like 1,000, you know, more than 1,000 or jam, it's very difficult for you to really get called just because of the nature of the fact that there's so many people in the pot. So, you know, even a guy who might have like ace jack in a spot like this, and I think we just lost the caller, actually. I'm hoping that he's going to call back. But what I was going to say is that even if we, you know, have a guy like, you know, with the ace jack, right? If he, you know, if he's next to act here with ace jack, it's going to be really, really difficult, you know, for him to call. Oh, this guy's back here, right? Is that you, buddy?
Sorry, Bart. My call.
No worries. So what I was saying is that it's going to be very difficult if you bet like 1,000 for a guy to even call with a jack. So what did you do here on this 3 of spades turn?
So I basically just put a little blocking bet out, 375. Like I said, I know I'm going to get called by. It's just the way this game plays. You will get called by very weak hands with you know, small to medium sized bets. But if you put too large, they will fold out. So I wasn't in there. There was another 3 players in the hand behind me. was trying to see what they would do basically.
I mean, that's pretty small. I mean, that's a really small bet. 375. That's like 1/6. I mean, I'm just looking at the rest of your stack size. So if you bet 375, you can get a call to one spot. The pot's going to be like 2,400, and you're going to have like 17 left. I mean, I would just try to concentrate on getting the money. And somebody in the live chat actually said to check jam. That's kind of interesting because of somebody might bet off on with a jack, and you did size so small on the flop that, you know, it's certainly credible that maybe you don't have anything, or somebody might not think that you have anything. But I would tend to, the only problem I have with that is that people will get scared in large spots. Like, they're not necessarily going to just bet off with a jack just because they're scared, and it's multi-way too. But I do think 375 is a little bit on the small side. Like I said, I probably would have gone like 600.
600. Okay.
Yeah.
So the 375, it ended up getting called by the big blind and the under the gun +1, and then the button folded.
So big blind calls and UTG1 calls. Is that right?
Yeah, they both call.
So 750, 1125 on top. So the pot's like 2875, right? Something like that. And you've got,
that's exactly.
Okay, let's go to the river.
So the river is a king of spades.
King of spades. By the way, you have like maybe 16 or 1700 left in your stack. So Queen 10 comes in, okay.
So to me, that, you know, basically a flush, a straight, you know, kings, you know, that's any of those cards come out. That's where I'm kind of, you know, I'm thinking that I'm basically beat with that multi-way pot. But anyway, so I checked.
Yep.
And the big blind bet's 1,000.
By the way, I think you have to check here because you ran out of total value, right? Like, I mean,
right.
The Queen 10s are in the range. It's an overcard to top pair, which, you know, it's possible somebody might have King Jack, but it's just very, very difficult to get called here by a worse hand unless someone has King X of hearts and they're so bad they're going to call off anyways. So, yeah, against two people, I would definitely check and evaluate. So here, checks, big blind bets 1,000.
He bets 1,000, yeah.
Okay, yep.
And under the gun +1 calls.
Calls?
I fold. He calls, yeah.
Wow. Okay, well, then you have an easy fold. Maybe I misunderstood, but I would say in any situation here, even if under the gun one folds to this guy's bet, this is just a simple check fold actually, which is kind of crazy when you think about it. What I mean by that is that, especially from a guy in the middle, I would most likely check fold to either player. So here you have even a more extreme scenario where under the gun one is betting 1,000 and you get a call. But let's throw that out the window. Let's say under the gun one bet 1,000 and then the other guy folded. I would still think it's a trivial fold. And to be perfectly honest with you, if you check the river and under the gun one checked if you check the river, the big blind checked and under the gun one, remember it's the big blind and under the gun one and are in the hand. So here the big blind bets, under the gun one calls. That gives you an easy fold. I'm saying if you check and the big blind bets and under the gun one folds, I'm still folding. And if you check and big blind checks and under the gun one as last to act bets, I'm probably still check folding. Because the bluffing frequency goes down so much in these situations, it would have to be just a pure heart draw bluff. And I just don't buy it. I don't think that somebody's going to do that. I think this is a clear-cut example of where the size of the pot is so large and it's protected because it's multi-way, that decreases the bluffing frequency from both basically opponents. And I just don't see you ever being good, even if one person bet and the other guy folded. Here you've got a bet and a call, so it's a really easy fold. What happened?
So I did fold because, like I said, they really never bet in these positions unless they do have strong hands in this game. So the big blind ended up having King 9. He rivered 2 pair, and the under the gun +1 actually had King Jack, also rivered 2 pair.
Yeah.
So
let me ask you. Like I said, let me ask you the question: if it got checked to under the gun 1 and he bet 1,000, what would you have done?
Just I hate to do it based on opponents, rather, but I would have folded in that position as well. They usually will check even like if ace king on the river if they would have had or something, anything. They were, ace king of hearts and they hit the king. They still would have, I believe, checked that river, even with the new top pair. So the fact that they had bet to me was enough to get out the hand. But my question was, though, like on the turn, you have very loose passive players. They will call medium-sized bets. Where do you, I hate the word pot control, but when do you say that, you're going to kind of evaluate a medium-sized bet, try to get some of the money in, but give yourself some room to fold, knowing that they're only going to raise if they have it there.
Yeah, but I mean,
getting the money in.
But I don't think that on Jack 9-5 and turns at 3 is entirely disconnected. It doesn't connect at all with really anything. So they would have to be slow playing on the flop, right? And I think your bet is kind of almost too small. And that's why I would probably take that 600 type sizing as opposed to 375. But you have to think that someone, if they flop Jack 9 suited or pocket 5s, 9s, or whatever jacks, there has to be some frequency that they're going to fast play on the flop, especially with 2 pair. So I don't know why you would assume. I mean, it would be much more treacherous if the turn was like an 8 or a queen or a king. I mean, at that point on the turn, you're supposed to get the money in. You really are. Now, I know that you can certainly make an exploit and say, well, I bet 500 or 600 and this guy who's never bluffed in his life like jammed on me for basically 1900 total. I'm never good here with 1 pair. Okay, fine. But I still think it still warrants a $500 to $600 bet. Anyways, and by the way, too, I hope what you can take away from this game here is that really the sizing should be larger. The sizing pre-flop should be larger, and if it's not, you can play a lot of hands, and then I would, I don't know if you subscribe to Live at the Bike, but there's a lot of hand material on this 5-5 game. I overlimp with a lot of hands in the you're getting like 15-1 on an overlimp. Well, maybe 12-1, right? I don't know if there's limping that goes on, but it's crazy. Like it would be very difficult for you to fold like maybe the top 90% of hands when more than 2 or 3 people have limped in. And I'm assuming this is not a rake game, right? I think you said it was like a home game or something.
It's not, no.
Right. So you don't have to worry about money coming out of the pot either. So you should definitely overlimp a lot. But anyways, I appreciate it. Thanks for the call. If you like what you've seen here, please hit the subscribe button. And if you enjoyed this call-in hand, hit the like button down below. To check out crushlivepoker.com, click on the link in the description. Use the code YTA300 to get the first 30 days for free.